For the past year, South Park has forgone the typical 10-episode season in favor of a different format, hour-long installments built around the rather tense state of the world. So far, we've received the pandemic special, the vaccination special, and the post-COVID special, with a fourth premiering later this month. With at least 13 more of these specials on the way, it seems like we're going to have this format for a while, as I imagine juggling these specials on top of producing standard 22-minute episodes would be a bit much for the team behind the series, especially when these specials serve the same purpose as the series proper. Poke fun at current events, taking shots at everyone along the way. And with an obligation to produce these many specials for Paramount Plus, a part of me thinks Matt Stone and Trey Parker will want to be done with this endeavor as soon as possible. So, where does that leave the South Park TV show? When will new episodes return to our airwaves? After all, it was also renewed through season 30 alongside these specials. But we've now gone 2 years without an actual premiere, which was a part of season 23. You mean to tell me they're going to make these mini movies and then hop to 7 more seasons after a noticeable hiatus? Well, truth be told, I have a rather hot take. I've been watching South Park for most of my life, catching every new episode week by week since middle school. And while I can still find enjoyment in the recent seasons, most fans would agree that there's been a noticeable decline in quality. South Park just wasn't as strong or witty as it once was. It finally felt like it was entering its zombie era that other long-running adult animated series have succumbed to at one point or another. And I think the ideas Matt and Trey had to keep the series fresh didn't work in a half-hour week-to-week format. It does, however, work in an hour-long format. I said it last year, but the pandemic special felt like a true return to form. The South Park I utterly adored, while also making the experimental elements work. This wasn't just lightning in a bottle, as the next 2 specials only got better. For so many reasons that we'll get into today, these specials ran circles around the recent seasons. And with that, something has become clear to me. It may be time to retire South Park as a television series and embrace this brand new era. Today, I have a case to state, and it's one that's quite simple. Comedy Central, Viacom, Matt Stone, and Trey Parker. To keep this franchise fresh for the foreseeable future, there's one thing you have to do. Keep South Park specials. For now, anyways. But to explain why I personally think the half-hour episode should be retired, at least for a little while, let's turn the clock back to South Park before the specials. In particular, 2013 onwards, when South Park switched from 14 to 17 episode seasons that ran in the spring and fall to 10 episode seasons running in the fall. Now, I'm not saying the show miraculously went to shit because they cut down on the number of episodes. I will actually argue that the series still remained fresh. Yet, I do think running exclusively in the fall set South Park on a gradual decline, which only accelerated once the show introduced serialization. Due to their extremely quick process, producing episodes from start to finish on a weekly basis, South Park is very much dependent on what's happening in the real world, in the exact moment it's being written in. Running a season in 2 halves in the spring and fall allowed for the show to cover numerous current events as they happened in our world. However, once the show began running exclusively in the fall, it felt as if it needed to play catch-up with current events and compensate for the time they were off the air, while also tackling whatever mayhem was going down as they were on the air. It put a lot more on their plate. They were biting off more than they could chew, and after a while, the stories weren't as strong. Serialization is something I skew towards in animation, and when South Park began to dip their toes into it, I was thrilled, but it impacted the show on an episode-by-episode basis in the worst way possible. I think serialization works best when an episode can still have its own identity while contributing to an overarching narrative. Any episode can be rewatched on its own because it's just that damn good. South Park kinda just dragged its feet throughout numerous episodes with anticlimactic payoff. Tell me, what stood out to you about PC Principal's big introduction season? And how numerous episodes focused on targeted advertising? Even saying that out loud, I can't believe they got mileage out of something like that past a single episode. Or how about when Kyle's dad was a major antagonist as an internet troll for a whole season? It didn't take long for this to become exhausting, and it kinda showed why South Park can't do an entire season with serialized elements. No one can predict the future, and I think the biggest example of this was season 20. which admittedly is a once-in-a-blue-moon season. But remember season 20 in 2016? When the entire season's narrative was banking on one presidential candidate winning the election, only for the other to win? Causing the storyline to derail and crash? Long-running stories work best in South Park as a half-hour TV show when they are three-parters, as they're either telling their own goofy story or don't have a resolution dependent on real-life outcomes that are weeks, if not months down the road. It's not like Matt and Trey were unaware that fans were growing tired of this format, as the season 20 finale was titled The End of Serialization as We Know It, which was sort of a half-truth, as the show didn't suddenly switch back to its former self. It's clear Matt and Trey like playing with continuity and introducing serialized elements that remain a part of the show. So the following season was in a more episodic format, but featured a lot more continuity, which wasn't bad. Yet we got introduced to something I find rather annoying. Something that's divisive among a lot of South Park fans. Tegridy Farms. A concept that started out pretty funny and then quickly overstayed its welcome. Mainly because it solidified modern South Park as the Randy Show, severely sidelining the kids and no longer making them feel like the main characters. Apparently it's because Matt and Trey find themselves relating to Randy more the older they get. But like, I don't care. Tegridy Farms dominated the series, and while it still got a chuckle out of me, air blowing through my nose every so often, it still felt like a chore to get through. And then the pandemic happened, which changed just about everything, including South Park. The pandemic special, as I said before, felt like it was the best South Park in years. Everything that Matt and Trey tried to make work in the serialized seasons absolutely worked here. If anything, the specials allowed them to have their cake and eat it too. And what worked about this special was improved upon in the Vaccination special, and even more so in the post-COVID special. These installments get to be their own dedicated story while sowing the seeds for what's to come. If you watch the current three back-to-back, you do get an overarching narrative that's constantly building upon itself. Yet, they all have their own distinct tone, distinct assembly of characters, and distinct critique of current events, despite all of them being intrinsically tied to COVID-19. Because the current events of the world have immediately impacted just about everyone, regardless of your age, South Park has reason again to focus on both the adults, aka just Randy, and the kids equally. In every special so far, there's been a pretty evenly split A-plot and B-plot between the boys and Randy. And because of the scope of these events, Tegridy Farms is able to play a role in everything without becoming obnoxious, as it's now reduced to a plot device, a means to get from point A to point B, rather than the main focus. Not to mention, premiering 2 or 3 specials a year means they get to cover numerous events throughout the year with a significantly longer runtime, so there's room for proper pacing and less pressure for South Park to catch up with the world, as they now can cover the seasons of the year accordingly. Shit, I'm sure if they wanted to, they could get 4 specials out a year. 1 for winter, 1 for spring, 1 for summer, and 1 for fall. But even at their current pace, I feel like these specials have been able to encompass a lot of what's going on in America without really missing anything. I feel like there's also way more creativity being put into these specials, the kind South Park hasn't gotten to indulge in for years because of everything else it had to juggle. Instead of having to get a story out every week for 10 weeks in a row with a little break, they now only have to come up with one story over an extended period of time. There's so much mileage they get out of simple setups, like Randy being responsible for the coronavirus, the initial eligibility for vaccines being equated to getting in a club, or the plethora of gags they got out of the time skip. These specials also get to pull various characters from South Park's roster, with what feels like almost everyone appearing in the Vaccination special. This elevates the specials to another level, as they feel like a celebration of the series as a whole and keep the stories fresh. You never know who's gonna pop up in the next special. It's clear, to me at least, that these specials work really well. And from a business standpoint, it keeps South Park floating around in general conversation longer than the average episode allows for, while also affording much more polished stories. Speaking of business, however, the streaming wars seem to be why we're getting all these specials in the first place. HBO Max has an exclusivity deal for South Park, the television episodes in particular, so perhaps Paramount Plus, Viacom's actual streaming service, is hoping that by ordering 14 specials, the next few seasons can be put on hold, long enough for the current deal with HBO Max to expire, and have the series be Paramount Plus's for the taking. All of this being said, it's possible for the specials to overstay their welcome just as easily as the gimmicks of the previous seasons did. I want South Park to remain specials for now, as I think it's a great way for the creator to experiment with the series, do something new, and get it all out of their system. It is my hope that eventually, South Park as a television series will return to the airwaves in a state much closer to the pre-serialization era. Keep serialization relegated to the specials. If you need to, create 2 separate continuities. Oh god, wait, is that what they're doing with the next special? The special built around time travel? Anyways, create 2 separate continuities so we can have a more traditionally structured South Park as a weekly half-hour series, and a more experimental, serialized South Park in the form of Paramount Plus specials. Perhaps that's the best way for everything to work out. But who knows, maybe I'm just a fucking idiot. That being said, I want to know what you guys think. How do you feel about the South Park specials compared to the structure of the television episodes? And if you had to choose one for the long haul, which would it be? Let us know in the comments down below, or keep the conversation going at Roundtable Vids and at Vox on both Twitter and Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, please sure to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. See ya!